diet. So remember that there's actually studies that show that, let me just show you all a quick paper. So brain fog, inflammation, and obesity, key aspects of neuropsychiatric disorders improved by luteolin. So we know that some of these flavonoid compounds, specifically something called luteolin, which I think is extracted from usually olives, and this is potentially another reason why the Mediterranean diet has like positive anti-inflammatory effects, is because of the prevalence of olive oil. So you may have luteolin in the Mediterranean diet at a high level as well. So people can also supplement with luteolin, but this is definitely something that I would encourage you to talk to your doctors about, because luteolin can be biologically active with other compounds like medications and things like that. But we sort of know that supplementing with flavonoids and luteolin can actually have a positive effect on brain fog. So the other simple way to kind of think about this, though, is that if you eat nutrient-dense greens, that'll also do the trick. So it's not just healthy diet in general. It's sort of thinking a little bit about, okay, what are the dietary inputs that I need to kind of compensate for the brain fog? And the specific thing about luteolin and flavonoids is that they seem to have very positive effects on the parts of our brain that appear to be affected by brain fog. So remember this mast cell activation, this high level of inflammation. There's very strong anti-inflammatory, antioxidation, and neuroprotective effects of flavonoids and luteolin. So that's something that I would definitely recommend that y'all talk to your doctor about. The last thing to generally consider is to remember like two super basic things. The first is sleep and caffeine. So sleep is incredibly important. So just about every person that I've worked with brain fog has needed to have some kind of improvement in their sleep. So if you're not sleeping properly, sleep is just the general time that our brain uses to heal itself, right? So if we're like not sleeping properly, or our sleep is disturbed, or we have too many substances on board, if we use marijuana to help us sleep, if we use alcohol to help us sleep, even if we take exogenous melatonin, I'm sometimes a little bit concerned about the high level of exogenous melatonin use, even though from a medical standpoint, it's very, very safe. But I think good sleep is huge for brain fog. The last thing to consider is, once again, hydration. So this is where you just got to be drinking lots and lots and lots of fluid. So if we're talking about this blood pressure effect, we got to remember that like fluid intake is very, very important for maintaining a healthy blood pressure. So you've got to really look at what's your liquid intake over the day. Are you drinking lots of soda? Are you drinking lots of caffeine? Are you drinking enough water? How often are you urinating? What is the color of your urine? You generally want to be urinating like a light yellow color. If your urine is completely clear, your fluid intake may actually be too high. If your urine is very concentrated, or you're not urinating very frequently, there's a decent chance that you're not drinking enough. So these are the last kind of two things to consider. So it's unfortunate that brain fog has been really like expanding very rapidly. I almost get the sense that there's like a silent epidemic of brain fog that's happening in our society today. And the most devastating thing about that is that as it's affecting more and more people, the solutions that we're offering people with brain fog don't seem to be working very well. So if you go see a medical professional, it's a good thing to do, by the way, because they can rule out other causes, right? So if it's something like anemia or vitamin B deficiency, there are a lot of things that can kind of contribute to brain fog-like symptoms. The downside is that if it's true brain fog, then chances are it's not one of those vitamin deficiencies. And you should rule all those things out, but then your doctor is sort of left at like, kind of like I don't know what to do. And then sometimes what they'll end up doing is just referring you to a therapist, or just telling you like, oh, eat healthy and exercise, which is actually part of the solution, don't get me wrong. But then the other problem is that once you get referred to a therapist, the therapist may be able to help you in some ways. But the real problem is that brain fog is not a psychiatric condition. It's actually a physiologic and neurologic condition. And so oftentimes what our medical system actually does is sends people to the wrong professionals. And then when therapy or psychiatry kind of doesn't work for you, then you're sort of left feeling like, okay, well, I've tried everything. Whereas it turns out that you started with the worst thing, right? Because it's not a mental illness. And then people feel really, really hopeless. Then you kind of come back to your doctor and you say, hey, the therapy isn't working. And then they're kind of like shrug their shoulders and we don't really know what to do. So my hope today was to share with y'all a little bit about, what are the mechanisms of brain fog? What are we starting to understand about it? And some of the stuff that I found to be somewhat useful for some of my patients, as well as for myself in terms of my own post-COVID recovery. Remember that your mileage may vary, and that this is absolutely a situation where you want to talk to a medical professional first to get evaluated for all kinds of these other things, right? And if you do that, hopefully what we'll start to see is that your brain fog will actually get better. And I would say that like 80 to 90% of the people that I've worked with brain fog, with some combination of the stuff that we just talked about, will actually get better. So hopefully that helps you.